All right, Victorum gaming fans and SPQR fans, we are back. We are covering the last scenario for the Germanians here in our series here, where we're covering the scenarios for the various factions in the game, and this one is called Forest Fight. So pretty much all of the Germanian scenarios kind of involve forest or trees or something in the title here. So, but this last one, basically it's starting off in opposite corners here. So as normal, both players have equal denarii. The enemy player is the attacker here. The Germanic player is going to be the defender. And it basically looks like, equal deployment zones there, 24-inch gap across the middle there. Setup. So before either warband is deployed, as many pieces of forest terrain should be placed as possible. If you are able to completely cover the table with trees, this will not be too much. So basically a battle right in the middle of a forest. The attacking player deploys all their models first. The Germanic player then deploys all their models. And then the German player, interestingly, also has the first phase. So even though the attacker... or even though the Germans are not the attacker, the defenders are actually going first here. So another one of those, again, where with the attacker being forced to put all their stuff out first, it's going to give the German player some information, and you can correspondingly set up your deployment to deal with whatever the enemy is doing there. So again, with a lot of forest terrain, though, this is definitely going to be one of those where you won't necessarily be able to get right to the enemy right away. So that will give both sides some time to adjust their plans. But nonetheless, another advantage here for the Germans. So being able to, again, see everything that the attacker puts out and how they do that, and then you yourself getting the first phase, and possibly, if you get the roll right, you might go first on turn 2, which could, of course, get you into some really favorable positions. Special rules. If more than half the table has been covered by forest terrain, the following rules are used. Rather than slow every model down by declaring the forest to be difficult terrain, you can instead assume that while the trees may be fairly dense, the underbrush is relatively clear and will not impede movement. Therefore, the forest will not be classed as difficult terrain. However, the following rules will be in effect for any unit within the forest. So models in the same unit may not move, so they are in contact with one another unless they are moving into close combat. This means formations such as phalanx can't be used, which makes sense for the trees. Cavalry units may not double their move score under any circumstances, so that's pretty rough. And then all models within a forest will benefit from light cover, which also makes sense. So some interesting characteristics there. So definitely, Germans do have access to cavalry, but this will certainly be a tough test for armies that more often than not will rely on cavalry. So that gives the Germanic player potentially some time to get into position and deal with them a little bit more effectively than having cavalry rampaging around in a more open forest. Everything having light cover, of course, is going to be a little bit rough too, so a little bit of a knock against missile troops there. And basically also preventing things like phalanx and shield wall from happening is going to be a little bit tougher too. So some of those other armies, again, that rely on their defense a little bit to weather the sort of storm that a German warband might bring, this kind of softens them up a little bit as well. So definitely some rough things there. And then victory goes to basically the enemy, the warband that completely manages to destroy or drive off the enemy. So ultimately, it is a kill 'em all mission, with a couple of caveats here, where basically the terrain will definitely be the single biggest factor, and of course, going to require some serious forest terrain, so hopefully you or your store or whoever has plenty to go around. But this could be a really fun and slow battle where getting into position is going to be very key, and then from there launching your attacks. Again, a lot of these restrictions here, so without formations, cavalry being slowed, and basically everybody having light cover, it's going to come down to some pivotal charges and key combats there for everybody, or for any one side to do well. Again, the Germans do have a little bit of an advantage here just by, again, seeing what the opponent's bringing and how they're deploying. They can deploy to counter that, and being able to go first will also kind of get them to where they want to be a little bit sooner, hopefully, and a way to get to maybe some spots where they can plan better attacks or prevent the enemy from sort of ruining their plans as well. Again, Germans do have access to cavalry too, but here it might just be best to really bring a horde of infantry and take advantage of the fact that other armies are going to be a little bit debuffed in some of those things that we have talked about. So even though again it's a kill 'em all mission, still a nice little twist on it, and again the terrain definitely will play a serious factor here. So something cool to try out, whether you're Germans or not. I think it could be fun between any two armies really, especially if it were two almost like cavalry and missile based armies or something like that. Really just taking away all their advantages and seeing who's got the better skills here to outmaneuver the enemy and outthink them here. So a good overall little mission here to wrap things up for the Germans. And if you could drop us a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And then again, this will be the final mission here for Germania. So check out our other two videos in the series, and we'll be moving on to Iberia next. So again, hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one.